Hi, I'm Dina Moskowitz. I'm CEO of Partner Optimizer, and I am host of Ecosystem Chronicles, a global forum for partnership leaders to come and talk about partner intelligence and partner data and everything partnerships ecosystems. And I am really excited because today I have a great episode planned ahead. It's with someone who I respect very much. He's an entrepreneur, but he's also a very experienced, very successful partnership leader. And before I talk about it, I want to let you know that he's one of the most well-known and well-regarded people at this conference where we are sitting right now, which is the Catalyst 2024 conference, the third one for partnership leaders, which is just amazing. And so this gentleman who's here with me, this entrepreneur, he's also a fellow San Diegan. He's a fellow SaaS entrepreneur founder, just like I am. So he's someone I consider both a mentor and a sounding board. And but when it comes to partnerships, the reason he is such a good entrepreneur in this space is that he's been a partnership leader himself with companies like Oracle, right?
Yeah, Oracle, Pronto, Attentive, Hawk Media.
Exactly. And so he's got, 2 decades basically of channel expertise loaded into one.
Yeah, as we all know with partnerships, it's kind of like dog years, but yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So for those of you who don't recognize this face, this is Greg Portnoy. He is the CEO of Euler, which is a revenue operations platform, which is bucketed into the PRM space, but really has some unique foundational differences to it. And he's here to talk about it with me. Now, before we talk about Euler in specific, the topic is all about furious activity. And there's an old saying, it's furious activity is no substitute for understanding. And what happens in the partnership world is that because there hasn't been access to a whole lot of data, a whole lot of line of sight into your partnership programs, furious activity has been happening right and left on the partner recruitment side and the partner acquisition and the partner engagement and partner sales. Everything partnership has been really restricted by not having access to good data. And as a result of that, there's a lot of furious activity that goes on because we just don't understand what we're doing. And someone like Greg and Euler and myself and Partner Optimizer, we've been really focused on trying to change that game for the partnership community. And so, Greg, thank you so much for taking time to be here during this event and talking to us about this.
Very happy to have this conversation. It's fun to do it here amongst the most...
The partnerati.
Yeah, the partnerati. There we go. Perfect.
Yep. So as one of the head partneratis here, tell us about your position on partner data and the challenges that we face as a community.
God, that's so much. If you follow me on LinkedIn at all, you know that I'm talking about this way too much. If there's any soapbox I get on, it's data. And that is because I have been a victim of furious activity myself. And it's how I built my partner programs. So it worked to some extent, but it of course capped out, or resources capped out. And so data is so glaringly absent for partnerships teams because previous to now with tools like Euler and Partner Optimizer, they just haven't had the resources or the way to even manage or track that data because, sales cycles are relatively linear. Marketing has been around so long that both of these channels have tools to create not only optimization and efficiency, but also tracking and data around the entire workflow of these teams. But partnerships teams, they don't have anything like that. They have, up until this point, deal registration and content management systems and affiliate link platforms. And there's no way to track the 15 to 20 different jobs that a partner leader is doing on a weekly basis.
Right.
And the problem is that partnerships is not linear. There are so many different touch points and activities that go into why a partnership is or is not successful. And if you don't have the data with which to figure out what's working, what's not working, and why, and therefore where should we and should we not be spending our time, your only alternative is furious activity because you have numbers to hit and you just have to throw tons of things at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah, exactly. So that's honestly why we built Euler, and that's why you and I just kind of hit it off so quickly with Partner Optimizers. We're both taking a very data-driven approach to partnerships, which is something that's just been lacking glaringly for so long.
Yeah. And so when you talk about partner data and data and intelligence through Euler, what are those areas of data that you cover and that you really hone in on?
Yeah, so we take a slightly different tact than the average partner platform, and it's because I was very lucky that my first VP of partnerships taught me what I believe is the right way to build partner programs, which is his first hire was actually always partner operations. It was not a partner manager, but it was someone to actually create process, structure, trackability, measurability in the program so that he could scale efficiently and predictably. And so what I learned from that was that if you have information from which to make good decisions, you can actually scale much more effectively. And so right now, we built our product on the basis that we are not the source of truth. The CRM is the source of truth, because the CRM is the source of truth for partners. It's a source of truth for, or I should say partner accounts. It's a source of truth for revenue and opportunities that are either sourced and influenced by those partners. And whatever other activity you may be doing for partnerships, ultimately it always comes down to revenue. If the revenue's there, you have the luxury to do the partner marketing. You have the luxury to create better partner experience. You have the luxury to build your team. If the revenue's not there, it doesn't matter how well crafted your partner program is. Like when the rubber hits the road and the CEO is looking at the ROI of the team, it's all going to come down to the revenue ultimately. And so what we did is we decided we are going to build the industry's leading CRM integrations for the purpose of actually reporting on all those revenue metrics much more easily, because I was very fortunate that either I worked at a company that had ops support, or I actually just really kind of stole ops support through ingratiation and typical partner leader tactics and had them build things for us in the CRM. But most partner teams don't have great reporting. So even on revenue, even on their core metrics around like sourced revenue, influenced revenue, pipeline metrics. And so we decided we're going to integrate it into the CRM. We are going to tell our partnerships teams, our customers, have good CRM hygiene. Like that should be your source of truth. Start there. Don't use a tool like Euler until you have that. And therefore, if you have good CRM hygiene, we plug in seamlessly, and then we can report on things like revenue, sourced, and influence. We can report on things like how much faster are your sales cycles with partners? How much higher are your close rates with partners? How much larger are your average contract values with partners? How are your partners performing month over month, quarter over quarter? How are your partners tracking towards their goals? Things like that, that actually, again, begin to give you more and more actionable information from which to better run your partner program.
Exactly. It makes sense. And you know, that's where one of the ways that our partnership is so good is that, you know, Partner Optimizer, one of the use cases is that we provide CRM hygiene for partnership companies. So if you have a whole collection of partners, there's typically a degradation of those partners because they're either leaving and folding the company, or they may be getting acquired or merging, and then their domain names change. And so we're actually tracking whether or not a partner is alive or redirecting or dead, and being able to track that is a perfect addition and cleanup of your partner database within your CRM.
Oh, 100%. And I think it fits very naturally into another thing that I think partnerships teams should be tracking within the CRM, which is that partnerships is a business within a business, and your partner program is your product, and your partners are your customers. And if you're tracking your actual customers in a pipeline, why aren't you creating a pipeline of partners? Why aren't you focused on acquiring, obviously figuring out your ideal partner profile in as data-driven a way as possible, which thank God for Partner Optimizer, and then actually tracking your funnel from acquisition to onboarding to activation to enablement and success and all of that. Like you should be tracking all of that. You should, I'm sure we're all familiar with like the bow tie funnel of revenue. You should have that for partners.
Absolutely.
And you should be creating optimization in every stage of that funnel. And it starts with good inputs. And it's really actually, it's funny we're talking right now because I just did a session last week or the week before. I have a 0 to 1 session on like with partnership leaders on how to effectively build a scalable partner program. And the topic was partner management. And I had Corey Snyder on, who's another fantastic partner leader, one of the best I know. And the funny thing is that half of the conversation on how to manage partner managers for success, how to manage partners for success was actually about acquiring the right partners.
Exactly.
And that's why ideal partner profile, that's why a data-driven ideal partner profile is so critical, Because if you, again, are just going for furious activity and you're acquiring a bunch of partners that don't necessarily fit, and then your partner managers have to manage those partners and they're not getting the outputs from the inputs of their time because they're working with the wrong partners, and then your partner program inevitably fails.
Yep.
Here we find ourselves in the same quagmire again.
Exactly. And you can have the best partner team in the world, but if you're putting them on the wrong partners, you're not going to get a good output from them and a good ROI, and you're not going to be able to keep them either because they're going to be frustrated because you're not setting them up for success.
100%.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And so from your standpoint, when a new partner program or is looking at selecting the partner tech that makes sense for them, oftentimes the partner team is being asked to fit into other sales tech, other MarTech that already exists, right?
Yeah.
And so Euler is one of the ways to enable them to actually adapt and adjust those existing platforms to work for them. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that your revenue source of truth for your business is your CRM. And we really think about Euler as a like partner operations wrapper around your CRM, where CRMs do a few things very well, but when it comes to partnerships, they hit their limitations very quickly. And so what Euler allows you to do is basically manage the entire partner lifecycle for your partners and manage your workflow as a partnerships team, but also do it in a way that's completely synced with the CRM with the data points that are relevant. So you can have partners apply to your program, you can accept them, you can contract with them, you can onboard them, you can enable them, you can activate them, you can accept referrals and deals through forms and links and everything else. And then when we write those things to the CRM, it automatically creates attribution and tags everything correctly so we don't deal with attribution battles. But the nice thing is, because again, for very long, there's been this idea of like, hey, our software, we want everybody to work in our software. And ultimately, there's just a lot of software right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that most people just have their preferred way of working. And so we decided to take the tact of, we're not going to try to change human nature. We're going to meet everybody where they work. And so the way that we do that is, if a deal gets tagged to a partner correctly in the CRM, it automatically pulls back in our Euler. We have truly bidirectional integrations with Salesforce and HubSpot and Pipedrive. And so the idea being that like the partnerships team can actually open Euler in the morning and figure out, okay, what's going on with my partner portfolio? You know, is there any partners I need to reach out to or talk to? How are we performing?
Yeah.
Are there any partners I need to accept? Are there any deals I need to accept or referrals I need to accept? How are my partners engaging with my content and enablement content? Are they getting their trainings done? Are they moving through their life cycles correctly? Or if they're working in the CRM and they're just focused specifically on deals, they can just do it there. It'll pull into Euler and it'll dashboard for the partner in their portal. And that's the other side of it, is that data is absolutely important for the partnerships team, but ultimately the data is also important to the partner. And if you're spending all of this time and effort getting your partners to take some action, which is to register a deal or send a referral or consume some piece of enablement content, number one, why are you forcing them to jump through hoops to do those things? Because ultimately they're doing them for you. And two, why aren't you giving them transparency on what has happened after they do those things? And why aren't you tracking all of that? So we actually have a great partner portal for the percentage of partners that will log into them. But the problem with partner portals is most partners don't log into them. And so instead of saying, hey, we're going to force you to log in, which is a problem that HubSpot and Salesforce and Microsoft, these massive channel businesses have, you know, mom and pop SaaS company or whatever, you're probably not going to get your partners to log in. So we have created mechanisms where you can automatically push updates on all of those things, you know, payments, referrals, deals, enablement content, all that automatically to partners, to email, to Slack, to Teams. Soon partners are going to be able to submit referrals and register deals through Slack and Teams. This idea, we have to like have everyone just work where they work. And not have to jump through hoops.
Send the reports that they need when they need them, right?
Well, right. And if your partners want to hear from you, it's not about like, hey, here's our newsletter, here's our product update. Like, sure, we would love to think that we are the center of our partners' universe. But ultimately, if they are being a good partner and they are sending you business, they want to know what happened to the referral, what's the status of that deal, if there's some sort of a commission involved or a revenue share, like how much am I getting paid and what did I just get paid for? And again, or where do I find your one pager or your sales enablement or your marketing enablement? And why are you going to make them like struggle to do that? When the fact is that the vast majority of them will not take that proactive step to do it. But if you're putting that in front of them and you're keeping them like transparently and proactively updated, we have the data, speaking of data, that when that happens, the partners are more engaged, they're thinking of you more often and more positively. And if you're front of mind with them in that way, they send you more business. So ultimately, the data supports both sides.
Friction. Right.
Right. It's all about reducing friction. You know, partnerships teams on both sides are strapped for resources. Why don't you just make it easy for them?
Exactly. No, I love that. It makes perfect sense. And I know that your customers are really loving it for those reasons. The operationalizing of every new platform you take on, it also creates downtime from partnership leaders doing their regular job that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So by being able to make this seamless and automated and enable them to have outreach to the partners without having to make any effort to do it is just a really great feature.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's the average partnerships team spends at least 30% of their time on what we call like administrative operational tasks, working in spreadsheets, updating partners, trying to work with finance to calculate partner commissions, all these little things that really add up to be a significant portion of their time, things that they have to do to kind of keep the lights on, enabling partners, checking in with partners. And so if we can eliminate the vast majority of that or through automation or create significant efficiency around it, now the partnerships team is actually spending more of their time doing what they're actually measured and hired to do, which is building relationships and driving revenue. Because at the end of the day, you get to the end of the quarter, you get to the end of the year, and you didn't hit your number, and your CEO asks you, or whoever asks you, why didn't you hit your number? Saying, well, I was busy keeping the lights on. Right. Yeah, you're going to be looking for a new job.
Furious activity, right? Furious. And you know what really ultimately matters at the end is, have you driven revenue? Have you driven a great customer experience through your partners? And if all you're doing is furious activity and not being able to measure or doing it with the wrong people, it's really it's not good for your own career, but it's also not good for the partner program.
Yeah, and speaking of data, this actually coincides very well to the talk that I just gave with Daivu from Google and Rich Gardner from Klaviyo. We were talking about how to get the CEO to buy in to the strategy of partnerships.
Right.
And really a big crux of the conversation was owning the narrative. And a big crux of that conversation was around data. And so ultimately, like, you have to be able to speak the CEO's language, and you have to be able to show them the metrics and numbers that they care about. So something that I'm really, really excited about is something that we're just about to release, which is an ability to create automated internal reporting. So not just reporting for the partnerships team or the partner leader or the partner manager, but actually being able to say, what are the metrics that our CEO or any other internal stakeholder cares about? What are the data points? And when I say metrics, it's all data. What are the metrics that these individual internal stakeholders, maybe the CMO, the CRO, the CEO, what do they care about? And let's have an automated report go out to those internal stakeholders on a cadence, weekly, Friday morning, Monday morning, something like that. So now all those reports the partner leaders are running to validate their impact, validate their existence, now Euler is just automatically generating that report with the business's own data, because oftentimes what happens, as a quick aside, is partner leaders have their own source of truth. That's not the CRM, and then they show it to the CEO, and the CEO's like, where did you get these numbers? But if they know that this data is coming from their own Salesforce or their own HubSpot, and now they're getting a report of like, okay, in the last week, we onboarded this many partners, we activated this many partners, we got this many leads or referrals, we closed this much revenue, the average contract value was this, the partnerships team did this, that, and the other. And now that's in their face with no effort of the partnerships team. All that data is showing just the amazing work and impact that the partnerships team is doing automatically, because the data already exists, but no one's accessing it or crunching it.
Right. And it enables a C-suite to understand the partner program and where it's going and what its North Stars are. And, you know, it's interesting because we similarly provide audits of what is your existing partner base look like today from a partner stratification standpoint. So to be able to look immediately at, well, of our partner base, X% call themselves managed service providers, X% are actually ERP consultants, X% might be system integrators, and the ones who are focused on this target market and have this ICP. And so when you're able to look and decipher and understand where the efforts are going and where you're getting the traction and which
Yeah.
partners can actually be the right ones to partner with into the future and have the propensity to be successful with you. And you combine that with a tool that's showing you how you're taking the approach to get them and do business with them. It's a real recipe for success.
Oh, 100%. And then when you're going and you're trying to get resources, hey,
Yeah.
we need another alliance manager because these alliances are really working for us. You have the data to back up that request versus just kind of like
Exactly.
saying like, hey, look at me, give me budget.
Right.
Ultimately, data is the only thing that will get the executives and the board to actually care.
Yep. To care and to be willing to give you and compensate you for the performance that you deserve to be measured on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, partnerships leaders are so busy just like with the furious effort of finding any partners and
Accepting
just getting
anyone that wants to be a partner.
right and getting any results in. I mean, I've had so many conversations here with partner leaders that are like, okay, well, how do I effectively manage the long tail partners? We need them.
Mhm.
They signify a meaningful amount of revenue, but we don't want to spend time managing them. And there's
Right.
no way to effectively like just basically keep them warm.
But now there is, because if you put them into Partner Optimizer, you can now decide, you can figure out which ones are worth investing in, which ones you do want to just sort of either get rid of or nurture lightly. And now you can allocate resources in the right ways. You
Right.
can also look at those long tail and say, why aren't they transacting? You know, or maybe do they have some attributes in common that make us want to pivot and offer something more or different in a program to them that might create that activation.
Yep.
So that you can now take something that you've already put effort into and get the most out of it.
Right.
So now you have that ability to look at and score the long tail and also bring that back to a program that you can then justify investing in.
Right. And then if you think about the not so distant future state of blending Partner Optimizer data with Euler data,
Yeah,
you're talking about demographic data, and then you're talking about like, okay, well, how many times did this partner log into their portal? What pieces of content did they access? What's their
Exactly.
deal velocity? What's their average contract value? What actions did my partner manager take with them? You start to put all that data together and you get such a robust picture of exactly, again, who are your most successful partners and why.
Exactly.
And now you can think about, okay, well, this is the most data-driven ideal partner profile and partner life cycle that I've ever had. And now I can be really, really intentional about building my partner program in the most efficient, effective way possible.
Exactly. And then it comes back into Partner Optimizer where we'll find you those lookalikes. Because once you have that formula for those partners that can drive success, we can easily find those lookalikes using a data-driven ideal partner profile search.
The future is bright.
I know, we got it. Well, for anyone who wants more information on Euler, Greg Portnoy is here at Partnership Leaders to answer your questions. Or if you're seeing him live on LinkedIn right now, you know how to reach him through LinkedIn. And Greg, let me ask you, for future partner leaders, any specific advice for them right now?
Yes, absolutely. For future partner leaders, I would say just focus on structure. So build process, build tracking mechanisms. Look, it starts in Google Docs and spreadsheets. We've all been there. Start with something and track and measure as much as possible in increasing amounts. Have the most basic process. Figure out I always say partnerships is experimentation. So figure out what's working, what's not working, and you can only do that with data again and by tracking things, and start with the most basic process, the most basic tracking spreadsheet, and then just kind of slowly build upon it. And you'll be surprised not only how quickly that turns into a very robust process and tracking structure, but also how much more easily and effectively you're able to grow and scale because you know what's working, you know what's not working, you run experiments, you have hypotheses, you test them, you get outcomes, and then you iterate. And that's honestly the best thing you can do, is just always think about it from how do I get the data to make the right decisions to build something scalable and predictable, because the days of just furious activity are over. And unfortunately, we've seen the result of that. It's partner leaders getting laid off at an accelerated clip. We now have tools that can support you to do that when you're ready, but ultimately you have to, tools will never replace good strategy and good process and good structure of your program. So focus on that first.
Exactly. No more furious activity. Now be strategic, be intentional, use the tools and the data that you have available at your fingertips, and take that time up front, because you don't need if you do the furious activity, you're missing all that upfront time, and it's almost like that ounce of prevention, versus all of the stuff that's going to occur in the future if you don't take care up front.
Absolutely. It's not sexy, but it's absolutely what
brush your teeth every day.
It's absolutely what will keep you in success.
Yeah. So how's it going at Partnership Leaders Catalyst? What do you have to say about the event this year?
I think it's great. It's really exciting to see the different tone this year. And I'm curious to see if you agree, but I feel like last year, the conversations were very high level. They were very strategic. They were more about kind of like ideating on what we could and theoretically should be doing. And this year, the conversations and the talks feel much more tactical. They're based around specific challenges and specific solutions for those challenges. And the speaker lineup they got is really impressive. And it's just it's good. It's just a very different energy. I think last year was very aspirational, and this year is very tactical, which I think is a very positive sign.
I agree. Now it's, I think Jay McBain said it earlier in the keynote, where it was all about the hype, and now it's about the execution.
100%.
So we've got this great community of partnership leaders who are growing up, who now have titles in partnership, who have C-suites willing to invest in those titles in partnership. And now it truly is about executing on partner strategies to enable you to drive revenue through partnerships.
Yep. I mean, that's the whole thing we were talking about in that session around kind of like the future of partnerships. And again, just very coincidental, but not surprising that it's about data. It's about, we now need to show ROI on the partner team. We now need to start putting together benchmarking data so that CEOs and boards understand what good looks like. We now need to have data around, okay, well, if I give you this headcount, what can I expect from this headcount? What's the output going to be on the other side? And again, this is all around data. There's going to be absolutely no way to execute successfully and to scale this industry without it.
Yeah, so true. And when we talk about all of this, it's not only about how good you're executing on your current partners, but it's not wasting time and resources on the wrong partners too. And when you look at a revenue opportunity analysis, and you realize that one good partner, for example, if they're driving 25K in transactions per transaction, and let's say they did 4 deals a year, that one partner could generate $600,000 in revenue over a 3-year period, right? So imagine if you have only partners who are that aligned to where they can drive that revenue for you, as opposed to 80 or 90% who aren't doing anything. Think about the ROI. Think about that revenue opportunity that's there at your fingertips if you focus on data.
Yeah, and I think that's still right now the status quo. I mean, at least in the majority of the conversations I've had and the majority of the prospects that we talk to, it's generally hey, there's 80% of our partners that aren't doing anything.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, in wrapping it up, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time. It's great having you as sort of a chair and leader in San Diego for Partnership Leaders too, and I look forward to those get-togethers. And congratulations on your rapid rise to success with Euler already.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll be sitting here in a year from now talking about all the additional success that you're having and that we're having together as a partnership, because I think it's really going to move the needle.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Bye, everyone.